Today we are battling against a Pokemon World Champion. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel for another episode of the Wolfe Glick Pokemon Draft League, featuring 8 amazing players and content creators. This week, we are facing off against Wolfe. For those of you who don't know, Wolfe has been playing competitive Pokemon for a very long time, and with that comes a wealth of experience and knowledge. He won the World Championships in 2016, NAIC in 2019, which, fun fact, was my first ever event I casted with the official Pokemon broadcast team, and since then has continued to increase the number of regional wins he has to double digits, and won another international championship. He has a bunch of other accolades that would be too long to list in this video, but the point is, he is one of the best, if not the best, VGC player in the entire world. And he is our opponent this week. Our first half of our match schedule has been Shady Penguin, Pokeaim, Aaron, Cybertron, Zang, and now Wolfe. And in the second half of the season, it doesn't get any easier because we still have to face off against James Beck, Mountay, and Uzi Gunner, who all have a plethora of Pokemon Draft League experience. I'm just happy to be here making content with everyone, so I hope that you've all been enjoying that content and also learning a little bit more about the drafting process. If you need a quick refresher on how the Pokemon Draft League works, we were all given a 100-point budget to build a 10 Pokemon roster with, no legendaries, mythicals, or paradox Pokemon. The points assigned to each Pokemon were relative to their power in the format, with the most expensive being worth 20 points and the least expensive costing 1 point to draft. Drafting a roster requires you to think about how your Pokemon are all going to fit together, what synergies exist, how are your Pokemon going to match up against the future opponents that you're going to face, all while not going over your allotted budget. Most of the time, people will draft one strong Pokemon and then round out the roster with a bunch of other Pokemon that are less expensive, but still are able to accomplish an important strategy. Take Shady Penguin drafting Fungus, for example, or myself drafting Fletchinder. They are usually a less evolved version of the Pokemon, but as long as it gets the job done, right? With that in mind, what in the world is Wolfe's team? Well, Pokeaim, Shady Penguin, and I have all taken clear direction with our drafting strategies, with Joey drafting Rain, Shady drafting Trick Room and Psyspam, and myself drafting Sand. You have to look at Wolfe's team and wonder, what is bro cooking? The DC Parish consists of Arcanine, Glimmora, Trevenant, Noivern, Espatra, Venonat, Mamoswine, Hisuian Sliggoo, Primarina, and Hariyama. There isn't anything that jumps out to me as one way that Wolfe can build a team from this roster, so we're just going to cover the basics of every Pokemon. First up, Wolfe's first draft pick, Arcanine. This is just the OG Kanto form. Most commonly when you see Arcanine on a VGC team, it has been Intimidate. Even the Hisuian Arcanine version, most people run Intimidate since it's a really solid ability. My team is mostly physical attackers, so having Intimidate would make the most sense. However, we've also seen Arcanine run Justified in the past. When a Pokemon with the Justified ability gets hit with a Dark-type attack, its attack is increased by 1 stage. People use Beat Up as a common activator because Beat Up has an additional benefit where you activate Justified for each hit you do. After 4 hits from Beat Up, your Arcanine is now at +4 attack. It is important to note that Wolfe actually doesn't have any Pokemon on his roster that learn Beat Up. You could still use any other Dark-type attack, but you're getting the most value out of a Dark-type move that is a multi-hit move as well. Espatra and Noivern are the only 2 Pokemon that are naturally faster than Arcanine, but Espatra only gets Foul Play and Thief, which are counter-synergistic. Noivern does get Bite, but it still makes way more sense for Arcanine, if it comes this week, to be Intimidate. Phew. Well, at least I don't have to worry about the setup. For moves, as a mono fire type, Arcanine will probably have Flare Blitz alongside any combination of other physical attacks for coverage like Double Edge, Close Combat, Outrage, Wild Charge, Extreme Speed, Play Rough, Iron Head, etc. Why does this thing learn Aerial Ace? Where are its wings? Non-fire type attacks do take a bit of a hit to their damage output since they don't get a same type attack bonus, but Arcanine still has a very respectable attack stat of 110. Its stats actually make it even trickier to predict the moveset on Arcanine for, because it could very reasonably be run as a special attacker with a special attack stat of 100. On the special side, Arcanine gets Flamethrower, Heat Wave, Snarl, Dragon Pulse, Hyper Voice, and Scorching Sands. There's less coverage options, but it is absolutely viable. Glimmora is another more expensive pick that Wolfe drafted. Since its release in Scarlet and Violet, Glimmora has seen quite a bit of competitive play. Dual Rock Poison is just such a great offensive type combo. Rock offense is pretty hard to come by, even more so on the special attack side of things. And Poison is so good into all the Terra Fairies and Grass Pokemon that are at the top of the meta right now. As a special attacker, we've mostly seen Glimmora have a combination of moves from Meteor Beam, Sludge Wave, Sludge Bomb, Energy Ball, Power Gem, and Earth Power. Sometimes we've seen Glimmora be run more supportive with Mortal Spin, which doesn't do a lot of damage but has a lot of beneficial secondary effects. Mortal Spin does spread damage, poisons both targets, and removes entry hazards from your side of the field. Combo that with Toxic Spikes from Glimmora's Toxic Debris ability and you'll just do steady damage over time. You could also use Glimmora's Corrosion ability to poison Pokemon that would otherwise be immune, such as Steel types. Glimmora also gets Spikes and Stealth Rock. Like, what an annoying combination to play against. Glimmora really said, "You can't have your entry hazards, but I sure can." Next, we have Trevenant. I'm a lot less familiar with Trevenant in competitive Pokemon. Maybe it's because I don't know the lore, but that was the first Pokemon that I looked at on Wolfe's roster and went, huh? Trevenant is pretty slow, so feels like a really great bring for Trick Room. But even if you don't use Trick Room, Trevenant gets a whole slate of supportive options like Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp, Toxic, Spite, Trick, Skill Swap, Imprison, both Sunny Day and Rain Dance, and Confuse Ray. Oh, and Destiny Bond. I think one of the biggest benefits of Trevenant in this matchup is going to be its Frisk ability. Frisk goes so hard in Draft League because we're playing closed team sheet. Frisk lets you scout your opponent's items, which is so much information to get right away since Frisk activates when the Pokemon is brought onto the field. Wolfe even has double Frisk because Noivern also gets this ability. This shouldn't deter us from using unconventional items, but we do need to approach this game expecting that Wolfe will have more knowledge than we will about this matchup. Noivern has Frisk, but it's also fast. Noivern is the fastest Pokemon of the 20 between my and Wolfe's teams. Noivern is also such an underrated Pokemon design. It is just so cool. With its speed, it is really hard to deny anything from Noivern. Tailwind, U-turn, Super Fang, Supersonic, Air Slash for flinches, alongside a myriad of other special attacks. Noivern could also be Infiltrator, but we haven't used screens in any of our previous weeks, and we don't really have any great screen setters. So it makes more sense that Noivern is going to be Frisk and also just do speedy things if it comes. Espatra is also very fast and hard to deny because it gets faster every turn that it's on the field thanks to its speed boost ability. This thing also gets Frisk? Wolfe actually has 3 Frisk users on his team, so I guess he really doesn't want to get jump scared by a random item. When we've seen Espatra in competitive play, it has typically been in lower power level formats. Espatra gets Expanding Force and Psychic, and its signature move Lumina Crash does damage and lowers the target's special defense by 2 stages. With speed boosts, there is also some impactful disruption that Espatra can go for, like Confusion, Reflect in Light Screen, Trick, and it can set its own psychic terrain. We have seen some funny stuff in the past with Gravity from Espatra's ally and then Hypnosis from Espatra. Fast Hypnosis would be so annoying to play against and also very goofy. Oh, Fast Hypnosis would be such a pain to play against. It is hard to see Espatra as a bring this week because we have Tyranitar, which directly counters all of Espatra's psychic type attacks. And because it's a mono psychic type, we'd also be taking pretty minimal damage from any of its other special type attacks, especially if we just put an Assault Vest on Tyranitar. And then there is Venonat. Honestly, the more that I look at this Pokemon, the better it looks, and it actually might be really good. It has fairly good bulk, similar to Clefairy, which improves dramatically with access to Eviolite since it isn't fully evolved. With Compound Eyes, you have increased accuracy of Sleep Powder, you could Rage Powder for redirection. Okay, Wolfe is kind of cooking with this Pokemon. It even made day 2 of a huge online tournament. I'm sorry, Venonat, I wasn't familiar with your game. Another more baby Pokemon is Hisuian Sliggoo. I actually used Hisuian Goodra in the Shuckle Premier League Draft League season that I was a part of, and I loved how multifaceted this Pokemon was. Sliggoo gets the same abilities as Goodra, but you can hold an Eviolite, and that gives it comparable defensive stats to Goodra, which is insane. Spend less points, get a similar Pokemon, profit. Sap Sipper isn't great into us this week because we have very few grass type attackers, but I love that ability because you can neutralize a Spore while getting an attack boost. You could also play a more setup oriented set with Acid Armor and Shelter, and then the ability Shell Armor protects the Hisuian Sliggoo from getting crit, which is one of the biggest ways a setup Pokemon can get punished. Sliggoo doesn't get access to Body Press though, so that is one less thing we have to worry about. Mamoswine. Such good coverage on this Pokemon as well. Up to this point, looking at Wolfe's roster, he's done an amazing job of picking up Pokemon that cover so many offensive types. Stab Ice type damage is also pretty hard to come by. Ice types also just don't have very good defensive type matchups, but the nice thing about being a dual ground type is that Mamoswine actually can hit 3 of the 4 types it otherwise would be weak to as just an Ice type for super effective damage. You could also just get rid of your Ice typing in Scarlet and Violet by terrestrializing. The next Pokemon on the DC Parish roster is Hariyama. Hariyama just got second at the Pittsburgh Regional Championships. That team featured Primarina as well as Sinistra, but that Hariyama set was so cool with Thick Fat and Assault Vest. It could just be on the field for a long time to get knockoffs and heavy slams. Hariyama on this team also had Fake Out and Close Combat. Hariyama can also be run offensively with either Guts or Sheer Force. Guts increases attack with a status condition such as Burn. Sheer Force, on the other hand, increases the damage of attacks that have a secondary effect, but you don't get the secondary effect. An example of this would be Poison Jab, that does damage and has a 30% chance to poison the target. You just wouldn't get the poison chance with Sheer Force. Last but not least, the real star of this team is the Primarina. At first glance, it just looks like a great dual water fairy type, but this Pokemon can do much more than that. Wolfe has become famous for his use of the Parish Trap strategy. He used Parish Song as a part of his European International Championship win, but has also done more all-in strategies around Parish Trap, such as his win at the biggest regional championship at the time, Orlando. There is truly no one that plays Parish Trap as well as Wolfe, and Primarina gets Parish Song. Luckily for us, there are no Pokemon that can immediately trap us in. He would have to use a move for that, but I'm still so nervous about Parish Song being on the team for this week. It could just be a more standard set with Throat Spray and Hyper Voice things, but it could also just be straight offense with a Life Orb and special attacks like Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, Water Pulse, and Hydro Cannon. This Pokemon doesn't get a huge variety of coverage attacks, but who needs them when the rest of the team has got your back? If I had to make a guess, Wolfe will bring some combination of Arcanine, Glamora, Trevenant, Noivern, Mamoswine, Hisuian, Sliggoo, and Primarina. I am not counting anything out though. 1, because that has come back to bite us before, and 2, it's Wolfe. Wolfe has been able to find interactions that no one else has thought of, like the Toadschool Galarian Weezing combination, or the copycat Liepard Trick Room strategy that he used a couple of years ago. He's also not afraid to pick a spice pick if he knows it's going to be the right thing for the meta, or in this case, our Draft League match. Since Wolfe's team is so flexible and not drawn into any one direction, it's really hard to predict what we have to prep for this week. So that's why we're going to be taking the no thoughts, head empty approach of just being faster and doing more damage with some cute tech things that will hopefully catch Wolfe by surprise. As a reminder, the shoutcasting Sylveons is Garchomp, Tyranitar, Clefable, Fletchinder, Gyarados, Scyther, Rotom-Mow, Hitmontop, Houndstone, and Alcremie. All of these are Pokemon that I have loved using in competitive. And I know it is a travesty we don't have Sylveon in these shoutcasting Sylveons, but she was expensive. She was asking for too much money to be on the team. This week, we will be bringing Fletchinder, Garchomp, Tyranitar, Rotom-Mow, Scyther, and Houndstone. Garchomp is faster than most of Wolfe's Pokemon and has a pretty solid matchup into a lot of them. We'll put a Clear Amulet on it to negate Arcanine's Intimidate and run a Steel Terra type to resist Mamoswine's ice moves. Earthquake is really powerful this week, with only Trevenant, Venonat, and Noivern comfortably sitting in front of it. Dragon Claw provides valuable neutral damage into almost the entire team, and finally Rock Slide hits Noivern and Venonat while also letting us fish for flinches. Garchomp will also be running Sand Veil to hopefully maybe activate and be kind of annoying and drop the accuracy in sand. And Sand Veil is of course going to be activated by Tyranitar. Tyranitar has been one of the Pokemon of all time for us these past couple of weeks, but hopefully is back and well rested after being benched for week 3. And we're going to be doing something pretty funny. I'm going to be running Adrenaline Orb and Max Speed. Adrenaline Orb will boost Tyranitar's speed when it gets intimidated. On paper, Arcanine is really strong for Wolfe this week, so I think we can catch him with this. With Max Speed and +1 speed, Tyranitar should be outspeeding everything on Wolfe's team, unless he decides to run Max Speed Noivern. Tyranitar will be running the standard Terra Flying to allow Garchomp to click Earthquake next to it, and for Tyranitar to threaten Trevenant, Venonat, and pesky Terra Grass Pokemon with Terra Blast. Scyther is actually our fastest Pokemon this week. His flying coverage with Technician boosted Dual Wing Beat is able to hit most of Wolfe's team really well for at least neutral damage, and threatens the Trevenant and Venonat that could resist Garchomp's Earthquake. None of Scyther's other coverage moves do a whole lot for me this week, so we're just going to be running Tailwind for more speed control and U-turn for pivoting. Continuing our trend with our speedy boys, we also have Rotom Mow with Choice Scarf this week. Rotom has the option to spam Discharge next to Garchomp to try to deal damage while giving Rotom a chance to paralyze Wolfe's Pokemon. Rotom is also running Terra Water Terra Blast to threaten super effective damage into Arcanine, Glimmora, and Mamoswine. Whether or not we bring Rotom is going to depend on Wolfe's team composition this week. Especially if he decides to bench the Noivern, then Rotom is probably pretty strong for us. Houndstone is next as a powerful Sand Rush user. Ghost moves hit Wolfe's entire team for at least neutral damage, meaning Houndstone could be really oppressive if I can position it right for a Last Respects endgame. Houndstone is also going to be running Shadow Sneak as usual, and in its flex slot, it'll have Bulldoze, because we just can't have enough speed control this week. Finally, we have Choice Band Fletchinder. This is by far the most situational Pokemon, but Priority Brave Bird, courtesy of Gale Wings, will give us options if Wolfe leans hard into Garchomp counterplay with Terra types. Fletchinder also offers Priority Tailwind if I decide Scyther isn't fast enough. There's a good chance that Fletchinder doesn't come this week, but it's there to help me feel more prepared if Wolfe builds his team in a very specific way. And also because he's cute, and I love him, and Fletchinder deserves some time off the bench. And now, we battle. Oh boy, Wolfe has Noivern, Primarina, Glimmora, Arcanine, Trevenant, and Mamoswine. I wasn't exactly sure what combination of Pokemon that he would bring, but I'm going to have to really think on the fly for this one and kind of try to figure it out. Arcanine being on the team does make me a little bit more comfortable. I think it would be very smart for me to just go for the Tyranitar and Garchomp lead right away, and then I can bring the Scyther in the back as well as the Rotom. The Choice Scarf should be faster than a lot of this, so I think going Garchomp with Tyranitar, and then I think Rotom Scyther is correct. We could also go Rotom, Garchomp, like Scyther and Tyranitar. Oh, there's so many different options, but I feel like leading the Tyranitar in the front is actually really good to be able to try to get the Intimidate, get the Adrenaline Orb to activate, and then we just have speed. The Glimmora does make things a little bit more complicated, and it would be nice to be able to actually just make sure I can hit things. I think this will be okay. I don't want to get surprised by something that will just knock me out. It's going to be really important that I pay attention to the speeds as well as what kind of moves these Pokemon actually use. So, for game... For game number 1, I actually thought that Pokemon was named Unfair. No, Noivern's Frisk! No, Noivern's Frisk! Alright, so now Wolfe knows that I'm Adrenaline Orb, but it doesn't matter because I still get the activation with the Intimidate, and I think that's going to be really funny. Perfect. Oh, the perfect setup. I think I could just go double rock slide here. Dragon Claw would be really nice. Only thing that I have to keep in mind is that Arcanine does have a Grass Terra, and then Noivern's is Steel. So I wonder if there's a way that I can actually just kind of play around that. I maybe think that it's like Tyranitar going for Terra Blast into the Arcanine. Either way, he switches something in, and I actually think I get pretty good damage. So I am going to say, let's go ahead and Terrastalize the Tyranitar. I'm hoping that I get a pin, either onto the Terra Steel Noivern. Now the Tyranitar is going to be immune to those Earthquakes. And if I force out the Terrastalization from the Arcanine, then it'll be really nice to make sure that I'm actually getting really good damage onto it. The Noivern just goes for Tailwind, so it's not going to be going for any specific damage this turn, which means that I get to see what this Arcanine goes for, but the Terra Flying ends up being perfect. Now this Arcanine has actually dropped its speed, and while I don't necessarily get good damage onto the Noivern yet because my Tyranitar is so fast, I should put this Arcanine into a clear range of being able to knock it out, and then with Earthquake as the follow-up, I hope this is a knockout. Arcanine being faster in Tailwind is certainly very scary, and now Wolfe has a free turn of Tailwind to be able to bring in a Pokemon. I still have to think about Terra. Noivern can still go for Steel Terra, and then based on whatever is in the back, we'll have to be able to play around that as well. But the fact that we got the close combat call to the Tyranitar is amazing. It's a really good move for us to know that it has as well. So we've got Intimidate, we have the close combat, and Noivern has Frisk and the Tailwind. So speed control in Wolfe's favor still. He's taking a long time to consider what he wants to bring out here. So I kind of wonder what he has. If it's Mamoswine, we're in a bit of a pinch. But it's going to be Primarina. Mamoswine is really nerve-wracking because it could go for Rock Slide, it could go for Blizzard, I think. It just has, like, ice moves that would be double weak here for Garchomp and Tyranitar. So I definitely don't like that. But I think for now, I am just going to protect. I don't think that there's actually a way for this Noivern to really do a whole lot of damage. I'm going to protect my Garchomp. This Primarina likely has something like Moonblast. Hyper Voice is, of course, going to be really good into the Garchomp as well. Oh, and it's Super Fang! Oh no, the miss! Tyranitar has the biggest miss ever with a Super Fang. Oh, you actually get to keep most of our health, and it isn't going to be a knockout. If you notice this Hyper Fang, if it actually did hit, we would have taken a knockout there onto the Tyranitar. But for now, it's nice that we actually do get just Rock Slide damage down onto both of these Pokemon. Garchomp is weak here, so I think it might actually be best for us to just kind of bring in the Scyther, and I'm going to protect the Tyranitar here. I don't think that there's anything that I should be too worried about unless there is a super effective flying type attack on that Noivern. That would be something that I would need to be cognizant of. But Eviolite here, I'm hoping it'll switch into the Garchomp position. It might take only something like a Dazzling Gleam. But this Noivern, since it did go for an attack into the Tyranitar, it doesn't need the Super Fang there anymore. So it would be able to actually hit the Super Fang into the Scyther, and then hopefully Eviolite allows us to survive another Dazzling Gleam. It's Breaking Swipe this time, so that's actually even better. We're getting so much information out of this Noivern with it actually having Tailwind. We have the Breaking Swipe, the Super Fang. But Wolfe doesn't need to go for the Super Fang on this turn. And then, yeah, of course, the Dazzling Gleam. We take that pretty well, honestly, with the Scyther, so I'm really happy about that. Primarina is Stellar Terra. It could go for a Terastallization, and then, yeah, that would be very sad. We would not like that. All right, they have one more turn of Tailwind, so I think I am just going to go for the Tailwind here. And it would be really nice to be able to actually get the Tyranitar to do something, but I think we have to be a little bit risky. We took that Dazzling Gleam pretty well, but with a Breaking Swipe, I think we actually do have to take one more. I think this actually is a Protect the Scyther turn and swap in, like, Rotom here. I think it's that. And then hopefully we can actually get the... Oh! We get to keep our Tyranitar. Oh, it's a Trevenant! Okay, Trevenant comes in. It also has Frisk, so Wolfie's really leaning into having the Frisk be able to show off all the items. And that's really smart. It's great to see that there isn't anything super weird with the Scyther, and actually because the Trevenant switches in first, we get to preserve our information about our Rotom Mo held item. So he isn't going to be able to see yet that this is a Choice Scarf, and I think that works out really, really well for us on the next turn. Rotom does have to take a lot of damage as it switches in, but I think a lot of the other Pokemon that I have in the back are going to be a little bit more valuable. I'm gonna try to set up the Tailwind now, because Scyther should be faster than both the Trevenant and the Primarina. I believe we trained it to make sure that it would be faster than everything, so we should be able to go for Tailwind here, and then I kind of just want to go for, like, maybe a Volt Switch on this Primarina. It doesn't have a defensive Terrestrialization. So U-turn would be really nice so that I could actually sacrifice something like my Tyranitar and then be able to bring in my Rotom later and try to get a little bit more damage down onto the Trevenant or the Noivern. Or, on the other side, I could just bring in the Garchomp after... so the other thing is that I want Tailwind, so I get one turn of being able to have the Garchomp on the field. But I can't bring the Garchomp in on this turn just because... we don't want to take too much damage from a Dazzling Gleam. But the fact that the Primarina protects is actually really good for us. So I don't get the Volt Switch. That's unfortunate. Oh, and I guess I do reveal the Choice Scarf now because I'm faster than my Scyther. Because Scyther going for Tailwind is really big. Now, Choice Scarf does make this a little bit interesting. Wolfe used Trick Room. Oh my gosh, Trevenant learns Trick Room. That's right! He's the GOAT. This is why he's the GOAT. Okay, so I don't actually get a chance to utilize this super well. I think we just get double KO'd here. But if for some reason our Rotom does survive, I would love to be able to get a U-turn off into something. I think that there's a possibility, though, that this Primarina just goes for Hyper Voice. And then I think both things get knocked out. Oh, it's just Rain Dance? I messed up! I messed up! Trick Room being on Trevenant is actually something that I think makes me lose. I think I just lose here. But I think that the Primarina is not specs because we saw it go for the Protect. Trevenant is a Dark Terra. I think it's just this. I think it's Knockoff and then it's like Rock Slide. Oh no! I need to... No, I don't want to run! I do want to run, actually! This is so challenging! I think I'm just gonna go for double Rock Slide! Let's go! I think this Trevenant goes to Dark. Oh no! Primarina does just go to Stellar. Stellar Terrestrialization for the Dazzling Gleam, I think, does actually pick up the KO onto both Pokemon. And the Rain Dance from Trevenant is a little funny. It would have been nice for me to be able to have the Sand Veil. Oh, but the Primarina moves first. It's because we have the Tailwind, of course. So just a double KO, and congrats to Wolfe for game number 1. Wow, that Trick Room got me so good. But now I know it's there, so I can play around it this time. That Trick Room play at the end was particularly brilliant because there wasn't really a way for me to be able to threaten a knockout with the Rotom as well as the Scyther. I think if I had decided to go for the dual Wing Beat instead into the Trevenant, then that would have been really great, but, you know, Scyther still had the attack drop from the Breaking Swipe, and... okay, I just have to move on to the next game. I'm not going to get got by the Trick Room this time around because I know that it's there, and unfortunately the Adrenaline Orb play likely won't work either, but I still see something like the Arcanine, and I think that being able to just go for Garchomp here is still good. I'm trying to remember exactly what these speeds are between the Garchomp as well as the Arcanine. But I think we ended up seeing the Arcanine move first. We did see the Arcanine move first, so it's actually quite fast. I think at this point, I would expect that maybe the Noivern is going to come again. Oh, this is challenging. I think I'm just gonna go Rotom, Garchomp, and then I think this time maybe just have, I think Fletchinder. Oh, Fletchinder is actually really hard to use here. Maybe I use Houndstone then and Tyranitar, and I don't bring the Tailwind. I'd love to show off Fletchinder, but I'm thinking that because Wolfe already showed Primarina, that might not be super good. But looking at like the Grass Terra, the Double Steel Terra, maybe I should have considered it. Well, now we have the Arcanine and the Trevenant. I wonder if Arcanine is... banded. Oh, okay, well now he can confirm that my Rotom is Choice Scarfed. This isn't the most amazing position to be in, but I think still being able to go for a Discharge here as well as Rock Slide, I think makes the most sense. There is a possibility that Arcanine just goes for the Grass Terra, but I kind of wonder if Wolfe would rather it get knocked out, so if he does set up something like Trick Room, he can bring in one of his Trick Room Pokemon right away. I mean, the Primarina worked out perfectly. Part of that was I did set up Tailwind, so I know not to do that this time around. The Rotom is going for Discharge. We'll see how much it does. Actually, it does quite a bit to the Arcanine here. And Garchomp going for Rock Slide, it is faster, so maybe we just get a flinch onto the Trevenant so it can't set things up. Doesn't. Arcanine might knock itself out to the recoil of the Flare Blitz, though. But maybe we don't want that to happen. No, it does. Okay. Now it all comes down to whether or not this Trevenant moves. No, Trevenant gets the Trick Room up. No. Oh, this is rough now. I think it is a... Ooh, Tyranitar is really awkward. I would like to bring it in, and it's nice that the Intimidator is down so that we don't accidentally get the speed boost. But I also kind of wonder if it would be better for me to get the Houndstone in and then switch in Tyranitar. Just so we have a Sandveil turn. But I think it's more of like a Steel Terra angle onto the Garchomp anyway. And then... Oh, I don't really want to do damage to my own Houndstone. But I can just keep over for Rock Slide. Rock Slide plus Shadow Sneak maybe picks up the Trevenant. And if that's the case, then we wouldn't have the Trevenant able to disrupt our sand once we bring the Tyranitar back in. And that could be really valuable for us. Of course, Wolfe still has Terra, and it might be the Primarina again. Oh, it's the Trevenant this time. See? Very clever. Trevenant with the Dark Terra. It isn't going to actually fall to a Shadow Sneak, but maybe we do a bit more damage with the Rock Slide now. I just hope that our Garchomp is going to be a good Terra. That's all that I hope for. That's all I want. Oh, Primarina also just goes for Protect. I mean, that's amazing. Like, we can get the Shadow Sneak into the Trevenant, so that's at least a little damage. Of course, it's going to resist because it's a Dark type now, but... Oh, Will-O-Wisp is genius. Wow, this Trevenant is playing such a supportive role this week. Getting the Wisp onto our Garchomp is certainly not great, but we still have this defensive Terra that I think this Primarina is going to have a hard time with. I mean, take a look at how little damage we're actually doing now that we're burned. I wonder what attacking move this Primarina has. Or this Trevenant has, sorry. Last Respects is gonna be tough to actually get around. Well, actually, hold on. How many turns of Trick Room are left? 3. Alright. I think I'm just going to actually protect the Houndstone so that we can make sure that we're getting through 1 turn. And then I'm just gonna go for Earthquake here. Earthquake might be a little bit more powerful since it is a same type attack bonus and it has a higher power, but Trevenant just going for Rain Dance. I actually don't know if it has... Does it have any... Does it have any attacking move? Nice protect on my part, so I'm not taking the Weather Ball. That's another good move for me to know that this Primarina has. So Trevenant has Trick Room, Will-O-Wisp, and we just saw the rain. We've seen the Rain Dance already, and then with Primarina we have Dazzling Gleam. We've got Weather Ball, Protect. All right, we're getting there. Now this is still kind of awkward, but my Houndstone is going to have 1 more turn. I think I can just do this, and then... I'm still just gonna hit the Trevenant. Oh, Horn Leech! Oh, it does have an attacking move, it does! Alright, so unfortunately, my Houndstone is going to get knocked out. And that's okay. But we now know this Primarina does have Moonblast. We've got Trevenant that has Horn Leech. So it like, I just have to have a move. It has to have some amount of a damaging move, right? If I thought about it a little bit more and I predicted that if I had predicted that my Garchomp would be, or that my Houndstone would be knocked out there, then maybe it would have been better for me to actually just go for the Earthquake. In this position, I think this Trevenant likely just uses Rain Dance here, but that's also super risky, because if it doesn't use Rain Dance, then I feel like I've just made a big mistake. You still can't really hit my Garchomp, though. So I can protect the Tyranitar on this turn and just get Earthquake damage. Let's say Trevenant goes for Rain Dance here, and you try to get an attack off into the Tyranitar. I do lose Weather Control, but I'm stalling out the final turn of Trick Room. And even better, my Tyranitar doesn't take the Weather Ball. So we've successfully stalled out all turns of Trick Room. Earthquake is going to be doing a little bit more damage than the Rock Slide, as we've also seen on the previous turns. We're really close to being able to get the knockout onto this Trevenant. But the real issue is going to be that Primarina. My Tyranitar is max speed. I have to imagine that I will be able to actually get the... Oh my gosh, I have to imagine that I get the KO, right? Oh my goodness. I just don't want to lose, like, a random... I'm gonna go for 1 Rock Slide. Primarina protecting also makes sense, because I think really at this point, it's on Wolfe to get another Trick Room up. Please hit the Trevenant and at least do a little damage and hope that we get the flinch. Just in case this doesn't actually knock out. But that would be insane if Tyranitar is unable to get that knockout. We do stop another Trick Room setup. If that happens, it's definitely game over. So I'm really glad that we were able to prevent that. And now we're down to just the final 2 Pokemon. I really hope that we can get this game 3. I just want to play another game. But it's Mamoswine. Oh my gosh. I don't actually know how fast Mamoswine is, but it is like... It's like 80? I think I have to be faster, right? I'm surely just faster. Oh, is there a better way for me to do this? I feel like it's always just like a Terra Blast into the Primarina. Hope that my Tyranitar actually survives something. And then we just get a Rock Slide to try to finish off the damage. I don't want to use Earthquake because my Tyranitar, I can't protect it. Oh, it's so fast! Mamoswine is so fast. That would be a knockout anyway, even without the critical hit there. But now that makes me really nervous. I don't think I get the knockout onto the Primarina now. No, it's so bulky. Oh, so close. Weather Ball should finish off the Tyranitar though, even though it has good defenses. No Sand, no Assault Vest, no chance of a game 3, but GG's to Wolfe. What a fun set. Wow, that Mamoswine just caught me by surprise. It was really good this week. Congratulations. I am the biggest thrower in the world. My Tyranitar didn't have full speed IVs. Ugh. I should have always outsped that Noivern with the Adrenaline Orb boost, and I am so sad that I didn't get the Rock Slide off before the Noivern was able to set up Tailwind. Despite that, I still got into a favorable position in game number 1, and then I botched it. I focused too much on setting up Tailwind, and then Wolfe Trick Roomed on the exact same turn. The turn before that was Wolfe's final turn of Tailwind, in which I should have either let the Tyranitar go down or switch it out. That way we get the Rotom in that has Choice Scarf, and it will be faster than everything. We get the KO onto the Primarina with Dual Wing Beat, and the KO onto the Noivern with Volt Switch. And on the following turn, once Trevenant comes in, we've got the double up of the Volt Switch and the Dual Wing Beat that should have also been a KO there. So I think we could have won that game number 1. There's still some things that Wolfe could have done to outplay that position, but I just didn't need the speed from Tailwind, and it ultimately ended up getting used against me once Wolfe set up Trick Room. I should have thought a little bit more about what Tailwind was getting me in that moment, and that's definitely something that I need to consider for the future to justify my decisions before I make them. And then in game number 2, honestly, the leads were just pretty bad for me, so I decided to try to fish for a Paralysis from Discharge or a Flinch on Rock Slide. Both of those moves combined, there's actually a really good chance for me to stop one of Wolfe's Pokemon from moving and stop him from really getting going in that game. But unfortunately, the gamble didn't quite pay off. I was still super happy with how I ended up stalling out Trick Room, but Wolfe played it so smart by using the Primarina to force the Terra out of my Garchomp, and that really freed up the Mamoswine with Choice Scarf in the back to clean up from there. Oh well, can't be that upset about losing to a world champion. And on to next week, we face off against another international champion, James Beck. We're just gonna have to wait and see how that one goes. But for now, thank you all so much for tuning in and supporting the channel. Next week, we continue our journey in the Wolfe Draft League, so see you then.